Hi, everybody. I'm Ellen with Advanced Massage Therapies here in Carrollton, Georgia. And today I'm going to continue with my interview with the fabulous Robin Devine. She is a certified lymphatic therapist in Calgary, Canada. Robin is the author of Living a Lymphy Life. She is also the creator of Lymphicon, which is a fabulous lymphatic conference that's available for therapists like myself or for the general public to be able to go to. You can either attend it in person if you are in the Calgary area, or if you so wish to travel all the way to Calgary to do that. If you can't, you can attend online. There will be recordings done, and after all the editing is done, about a month after the conference, it will be emailed out to everyone who has signed up. So if you're interested in Lymphicon, I'm going to have the link to it down in the notes. Also, a link to her book on Amazon as well. And if you're interested in learning more about Robin, I do have the link to her website there too. In this segment, Robin and I are going to discuss a little bit about why, if a therapist is using oils or lotions on you, that is not lymphatic drainage. We're also going to be discussing why pressure matters, deeper work, even though it does affect the lymphatic system, it is distinctly different and it is not lymphatic drainage. We're also going to discuss the dangers of incisional drainage and why that is illegal for massage therapists to do. And we're going to discuss a few other little things. Let's talk about why precision training and real technique make an impact and a real difference in lymphatic drainage. Let's get into it.
I've done a workshop that was a weekend long, and it was just a whole bunch of beautiful fluff that told me how to do effleurage using lotion, which is not lymphatics and
And when
not specific,
you just
nothing.
briefly explain, if someone is using some sort of a lubricant, an oil or a lotion, and they're sliding on the skin, why that is not lymph drainage? Will you explain that just quickly?
Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to preface this though, is that, if you go for a massage, and in massage, effleurage is that really gentle kind of like grand technique that's sort of done over the entire skin. And then the other one we call is petrissage, which is like the kneading and like the knuckles and the elbows, that's petrissage. Both massage, effleurage, petrissage, they will support lymphatic movement. Okay. You can't deny it. The science is there. If I'm moving muscles and I'm pushing towards the heart, you will have an impact on the lymphatic system. Okay. So will walking. Okay. So will doing yoga. So we'll go swimming. All of those things help lymphatic movement. Lymph drainage or lymph drainage therapy, however you want to say it, those techniques are very specifically designed to focus on the movement of the lymph specifically. So I'm not looking at muscle fiber direction. I'm not looking at, you know, other pieces. I'm very specifically looking at the movement of the lymph. Okay. The lymph techniques, whether it's Vater, Chickley, Close, Academy of Lymphatic Studies, they all agree on this one point, is that you have to have tissue stretch. So for example, if I have my arm, if I just slide, okay, this is lazy effleurage in my opinion, or right now it's called petting, and I don't think that's appropriate, okay? But if I do this where I have my hands here and I get that little bit of a tissue stretch, you are changing and you're very specifically working with lymphatic structures. So if I go down to like the smallest lymphatic vessel, it's called a lymphatic capillary, has these cute little filaments called anchoring filaments. And when we stretch the skin, it actually moves those filaments and helps fluid from around the cells to get into the lymphatic system. So that's point one. Point two, though, is that there are vessels that are a little bit deeper, and I'm talking like deeper, like just under the skin, like super, superficial. What happens is that by doing that little bit of tension and stretch, you are also stimulating slightly larger vessels to contract. And that's one of the things that's missed a lot of the times is that, you know, this is my least favorite statement that's made all the time on the internet is that the lymphatic system has no pump. It doesn't have a heart like cardiovascular system. The only way lymph moves is because of breathing and muscle movement. Now, breathing and muscle movement do help lymph. Can't deny it. But in your larger vessels, you do have little hearts. You have these things called lymphangions, and you actually have a muscle in your larger lymphatic vessels that pump. They have an autorhythmicity. They actually contract regularly to help push lymph back towards your heart. So you can stimulate those contractions to be more effective and to even move potentially a little bit faster to move more fluid. So a lymphatic technique treatment, there's no lotion. And if there is lotion, then we put a sheet over top of them and then work on the tissue because you need tissue stretch. And that is a universal thing across all the main schools of lymphatic training. That's not just me on my little high horse because that's what I do.
No, that's not debated.
That's not a debatable thing. It's in books.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I can pull out 3 of my different lymphatic books right now and I could find you that anatomy and show you that that's the piece. It's really
Lymphatics is
important.
very specific, not only with stretching the skin, but the depth at which you work
Yeah.
and the speed at which you work.
Yeah.
And that's something that I see a lot of therapists getting it wrong.
Yeah.
They're working too fast, they're working too deeply.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about why depth and speed also matter?
Yeah. So if I look at your limbs, about 70% of all the lymph in your limbs, your arms, your legs, is just between the 2 layers of skin. So you have like your upper layer of skin, which is called your epidermis. That's the stuff you shed off when you slough, right? And then deeper, you have your dermis, which is where, you have blood, you have your hair roots, you have your oil glands, everything. And so between those 2 layers, that little tiny space between, that's where the majority of your lymph sits in your limbs. And so if I go deeper than that, I'm kind of missing the majority of the lymph in the limbs.
You're
Okay.
squishing.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm going to go past it. Right. And I always loved this. It was such a wives' tale in school. They're like, if you go too deep, you're going to damage the lymphatics. And I'm like, well, my poor feet then, because I walk every day and I'm not a lightweight. And my feet still survived. And sometimes I wear pants with a belt that's just too tight, and I haven't damaged those lymphatics yet. So they are very strong in the sense of resiliency. You're going to compress and go through them, which means you're not right. So now they'll come back. Like they do come, like they're still there. I'm just not specific. So this is the thing, is you do have lymph at many, many, many layers, right? We have lymph basically everywhere you have blood. So you have lymph in your bones, you have lymph in your muscles, you have lymph in your nerves, in your organs, in your skin. Like you have lymph almost everywhere. There's a couple exceptions, of course, but anywhere you have blood, you have lymph. So sometimes I do. I have to sink a little bit to get down to that level, but once I get there, the technique is very soft. It should never be painful. As soon as somebody gets that pain response, they go into a sympathetic, that slows things down. Their muscles and everything tense up, and I'm not going to get lymph movement. So somebody like digging their arm really far down and then stretching and causing the person to wince and move around in pain, that's not lymphatic. I'm gonna throw it, that's fascia. There's nothing wrong with doing fascia work, but don't mislabel it as lymphatics. Doing fascia and lymph together, in my personal opinion, is the way to be the best therapist possible because fascia can restrict lymph movement and lymph can affect fascial restrictions, but don't call one the other. And so when I see videos of people going really deep into somebody's abdomen and like looks like they're trying to like drag along their vertebral bodies, like the very back of their abdomen, that's I wouldn't even call that really good fascia work either, but that's a misunderstanding of how lymph works. A lot of people have this idea that, it's like water on a table. You just have to like sweep it off. Lymph doesn't do that. And so you have to work with the system. Your job is not to physically move the fluid. It's to stimulate the person's lymphatic system to move the fluid naturally and more effectively within its own ability. I'm not physically pushing the fluid out through an incision. That's incisional drainage. That is not lymph drainage. That is unethical and pretty much illegal. And the only people who can truly do that is a nurse with a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, we can lose our license for doing that.
Oh my God. The amount of people who've sent me a video on incisional drainage and goes, just do this. I'm like,
See people still trying to seek it. And I'm like, why would you seek that? It's illegal, it's unethical, and it's going to set the client up for more problems, more risk of infection, more fibrosis.
and it
It's just
does.
awful.
Unfortunately, though, they promote it as a fast and easy way to get rid of the fluid. And if you're post-surgery and you have inflammation, or worse, maybe you have a seroma, you have like a pocket of fluid that's stuck there, that's a medical doctor using a beautiful syringe, knowing exactly how to do it. My job as a lymph therapist is to help optimize your lymphatic system to move the fluid naturally. And that's what we're doing. We're stimulating your immune system to be better, to be stronger, to be more optimized in the sense of it can move more fluid. So those techniques, and again, water style, Chickley, I can look at all the different schools. Those are the two main different types, like training basics. But the only difference is with Chickley, we can be very specific with feeling the directionality and the rhythm of the fluid. And the more you work with the fluid, you get to notice what's normal, well-hydrated fluid and what's dehydrated and what's maybe slow and sluggish. Versus if I look at Vater style, which I've trained in, is a little bit more mechanical, but honestly, they're both trying to do the same thing. They just have a slightly different approach, but the techniques, the stretch on the tissue, it's pretty similar. So
Yes.
that's not up for contention. No matter who I've talked to who are instructors around the world, that is not up for debate.
I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, a like. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps it grow. It doesn't cost anything. It just shows the YouTube algorithm that videos like this are being watched, and it will help show this to more people. There is so much information out there on the internet about lymphatics that is actually misinformation. So getting the good stuff out there is really important. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you would share this with people you know and help us spread the word. Again, I'm Ellen with Advanced Massage Therapies in Carrollton. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.